that there were lyrics in this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 59 of 1 million of the Serial Chillers podcast. I am your co-host, Greg. And with me, as always, across the internet, Jesse.
Hello.
Yeah, what's up, dog?
Hey, man.
Coming in live from the Super Network studios.
That's where I am. You're not there.
Right. I'm in the bunker.
Wait, is this the bunker? Am I in the bunker? You've replicated the Super Network studios inside of the bunker to make sure that I feel 100% comfortable.
It's like that Rick and Morty bit with the hologram.
I appreciate it.
Except this is real life and it's a hologram.
Whoa. So what are we doing? Why are you doing the intro?
I honestly, that was as far as I had planned. I don't have any idea what we're doing tonight.
So tonight we had a cancellation, so we're bringing you another Jesse and Greg show. We both brought a couple smaller stories. I brought another missing persons I'd like to get out there. Honestly, there are so many on the website. It's like a cold case website. So there are a lot of old ones, a lot of new ones. So I just kind of picked one with an interesting story behind it, I thought. So yeah, I brought a story. Greg's got a little one, and again on these episodes.
Your pardon?
Yeah.
I say shit like that on the internet.
On these,
people are gonna think it's true.
On these episodes, I always like to take the time because when we have a bunch of guests here, it's kind of just business. And while the episode you guys hear is about an hour and a half long, sometimes the guests are here for 3.5 hours, and we're we're not always on track. Just Greg does a good job editing. But on go ahead.
Yeah.
On these episodes, I like to kind of take it as a time to thank you guys for, the support and for the listenership and, reaching out to us. And I don't know, man, Greg has been a lot more involved in the social media game as of recently. And he's kind of seeing he texted me the other night, whoa, man, the outpouring is great. A lot of people reaching out positively.
I don't have access or didn't have access to the Instagram and the Facebook and stuff until I don't know, I guess by the time you hear this, it'd be 2 weeks ago.
It wasn't intentional. It wasn't
it's just, I wasn't even originally part of the show. So
right.
I wasn't there for the inception of any of the stuff and just kind of cruised along.
Fucking weaseled his way in is what happened.
That's right. I ride somebody else's coattails. That's my tips to success. I'm gonna write a book.
No way, man. Couldn't do it without you.
But yeah, it was cool to see. I fucking laid in bed and scrolled through all the Instagram messages that we already had, and I was like, wow, man, I didn't realize that many people liked us or listened, and that was crazy. That blew my mind because most people I interact with on a day-to-day basis, not on the internet, don't like me or want to hear what I have to say. So it's cool. It's cool when somebody does.
Yeah. It has been very nice. There have been ups and there have been downs for sure, but you guys have been and I honestly mean this, I'm a part of a lot of fan bases, and you guys are one of the best that I could possibly ask for. It may not be the largest fan base, but the people who are interacting with us know that we love you guys. It's crazy.
We got Simpsons memed. That was huge for us.
That was very huge for us. We got Simpsons shitpost memed.
Yes.
The most wonderful of all.
Yeah.
So
that was my life was pretty much complete after that.
Yeah. So I mean, we're just starting out. I mean, maybe this feels like a little bit of a humble brag, but it's more like a huge thank you guys. It's been, Greg and I talk about it a lot. It's very interesting. We did a show before this, and none of you guys listened to that one, so we weren't expecting any of you to be here for this one. Yeah. So it's cool that anyone's listening. The audience feels like it's growing every day, and I don't know, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it, and I think probably Greg has a similar sentiment.
I'll give it to you from the middle of my heart, because the bottom of my heart's not very good. there's some broken shit down there. Like it just doesn't work right.
So he's not giving
But
you he's not giving you the middle out of spite. It's because he's giving
yeah,
you the most
I'm
properly
giving you I'm
performing.
giving you the strong part.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, man, it's been cool, and let's talk about some true crime. I guess we're getting all sappy up in this bee.
You're crying.
Yeah, I brought a story that actually this happened. I think twice now, or maybe this is the third time where you and I had planned on doing one of these episodes because of a cancellation. Somebody that day messaged me like, "Hey man, you should check out this. It would be a cool side story, if you ever need one." And I've either vaguely heard of it or hadn't heard of it, so throw in the quick Google. And this one was one that I hadn't heard of. So I quickly read 6 different articles on a couple of websites, and I was like, man, this is good. Like, this is perfect for tonight. So I want to thank Randall Bragg for sending me the message. He and some of his coworkers, and I believe his wife, listened to the show. We appreciate
what's
you.
up, guys?
Yeah, yo. Well, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate the story. They're from nearby, they say. So it's kind of a cool thing. So this is a hometown story from them. So
Oh, I thought you meant nearby us. I was like,
oh no. Yeah, this is a story that takes place somewhere nearby where they currently reside or grew up. I'm sorry, Randall, I can't remember. But thank you for the story, because this is actually it's creepy. It's a story of like evil twins, essentially. These guys, the Bondurant brothers, Bondurant. There's a few different pronunciations of it. I'm not 100% sure which ones, but I'm going with Bondurant.
is that those twin brothers that got all that plastic surgery and are all crazy looking now?
No. These guys look more like, remember the world's fattest twins? They used to ride the motorcycles.
Checker pants.
These guys are very, very similar. So this is very much mostly information from a TV show called Evil Twins. So give them the shout out there. There's not a lot on this. I found some. Google has really cool. It's almost like you can microfiche now. You can go look at old newspapers. So I found a couple newspaper articles, which I screen capped, and I'll post you guys those. I think it's pretty cool. It felt very vintage. Very vintage. When's the last time you looked up some shit in a newspaper? So, but most of this is from that show and this write-up essentially of that show. But these guys, Hugh Pete Bondurant Jr. and Kenneth Patterson Bondurant, they go by Pete and Pat, which is going to be very confusing. Also, right off the bat, you have a set of twins and one of them's a junior. How unloved does the other one feel?
Junior and oops.
Whichever one of you comes out first is junior. The other one, well,
go on, race for my love.
So they're born.
We grew up in a competitive environment.
They're born April 4th, 1955, to Polly and Hugh Peter Bondurant Sr. Pete Sr. Was a military contractor. Polly was retired from Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama. They died in 2000 and 2010, so they would definitely see their sons commit these crimes that we're going to talk about. So in 1991, the Bondurants are going to commit some murders. But growing up, the show and the article and the people in the show and the article pretty much said like they were just like chunky little farm boys. And the show is ridiculous because it had them like in a pair of overalls with a black shirt, and they're like 9 or 10, and they had a great set of identical twins. It was really funny. It was like, but then they grew up, and it changed to like 18-year-old them, but they were still wearing the same overalls and the black shirt, like they had the same exact look. Yeah, but these guys are essentially running around causing a muck as partners. One of them had the hot head. I want to say that it was Pete. Let me double check here. Pete is between the two of them, the one that's definitely instigating most of the fights and the scuffs that they're getting into. But every time that Pete does, Pat's got to be there to get his back.
Somebody's got to back him up.
Well, that's just, I guess it's a brothers thing, but these guys were especially connected. They're identical twins. They look very similar. They go by Pete and Pat. They, they're,
wasn't that a Nickelodeon show?
Pete and Pete.
Oh.
Yeah. Bye, yeah.
All this time I had it wrong.
Those guys have a podcast now too. It's really great. Adventures of Danny and Mike. In
I'll have to
fact,
check it out.
yeah. So they grow up together. They're, from what I understand, they're bullied a lot as kids for being the fat kids. Then they get into their teenage years and they're bigger than everybody. So then they were picking on all the people that used to pick on them, and then some. They were known for like choking kids out, and they had to be like peeled off kids because everybody around thought they were going to kill them. And I think they're just running the hallways, and whoever they wanted to start a fight with, there's two of them, and they were gigantic. So what are you really going to do? So these guys are major assholes. They spent every waking moment together for their first 18 years, but they separate after high school, and Pete went to Cincinnati. They said that he seemed lost without his brother. In Cincinnati, he's just like working and drinking. That was the only two things he really did. In 1975, he's convicted of manslaughter after stabbing two of his roommates, one of whom who died after 40 stab wounds.
Jesus Christ.
Not even the major crime we're talking about here. But yeah, I think they just got in kind of a drunken brawl. Well, in like a drunken argument one night. And one of them went to the room, and the other one went and passed out in his room. He went into the passed out guy and stabbed him 40 times because he was passed out. He never even woke up from it. And the other guy went in and stabbed, and I think that just the guy they stabbed 40 times died. He did stab both, but the one that was awake survived. And the reason he went out saying it was self-defense. But the reason that it was proven was because that guy, they essentially proved that he was asleep. He was asleep when he was attacked. There's no defensive wounds. He was like this, this wasn't disturbed, whatever, for whatever reason. The detective said this guy was out and he was brutally attacked. So, it was deemed not premeditated, and that's why I don't even know how he got down to a manslaughter for this, but right. Yeah, so he's doing that. That's Pete's deal. Pat seems like he's got more of a grasp on how to do this life thing. He works at a local rubber plant. He meets his future wife Denise when they get into when she rear-ended him. What a lovely little story. She had a little minor fender bender in 1980. They were married by 1983 and would eventually have 2 kids. So good for Pat. He's living his life, like.
That's right. That's how you get out there. That's how you get out there and meet people.
Yeah, you get fender bendered. Well, I just mean more like, growing up, they were fucking assholes. And as we said, Pete was generally the instigator. Pete moves away and Pat's kind of living the normal life. He doesn't have the firecracker around all the time, kind of causing shit for him.
Right.
So after Pete is released on parole, he returns and lives with Pat in Elkton, Tennessee. So Elkton is like a super small town, fewer than 500 residents, just across the border from Alabama. Denise, Pat's wife, not stoked about Pete being around. He is a convict. He stabbed one of his roommates and, both of his roommates, and one of them died. Denise very aware of this. Doesn't matter. Pat and Pete get back into their old ways. They're brothers, the bond is there. So he starts hanging out with his brother and partying, and they go back to their old farmhouse that their parents own. It's like dilapidated and run down, and I think that the family still owned it, but they just start partying in it. And anybody that can come out and party, they're in. And they were not good with the ladies growing up. So at this point, they were able to get some drugs in this random farmhouse, some Valium, Dilaudid, cocaine, and just tons of booze. And that's how you get the ladies. You just have all the drugs.
So that just sounds like a blast.
Yeah. So some dirty fucking dilapidated farmhouse with 2 350-pound murderous twin brothers.
Yeah.
So they partied hard, but it's the same way. Everybody knows not to mess with them. Like in the documentary, that a lot of people said they ran the town. Like the police couldn't even stop them because they had so many people in their back pocket that people would, take the blame for them, and they were like drug lords of Southern Alabama.
Perfect.
Yeah, that was kind of how they
Absolutely
were
perfect.
described in some of the articles, like they're almost as if they're Southern Alabama mobsters. If I'm not mistaken, that's kind of how they were. They were the lords of.
I mean, if you're gonna get in the shit, be the top dog.
I guess so. They were holding it down. They were getting all the ladies out there. So the particular crime we're going to talk about here is May of 1986. Gwen Duggar goes with her brother Ken to the farmhouse, the Bondurant's farmhouse. It had broken down there the night before, or whatever, 2 nights before, and he went to go back and get it. So his sister Gwen takes him. So the boys, ever charming, I guess, come out and say like, "Hey, hang out here. Like, yeah, your brother was here last night. You know, you're cool. We got it. We helped him get his car fixed. You know, just hang out a little while. He's gone. No big deal." And she's like, "Yeah, you know, take off. I'll hang out here with these guys." And this guy, none the wiser, is like, "All right, whatever, man. And you're an adult. Do your own shit, dude." And so they're just like feeding her drugs. And like, you know, I think she was taking them, but I don't think she really knew what she was getting herself into. So they just kept.
She sounds like maybe she just wanted to get high, and they were like, "No, keep going,
keep going, you got it." And so they gave her drugs until she's pretty much just like they said she wasn't unconscious, but she was not in any mental state to be making any decisions, or you know, she was incapacitated to the nth degree.
Right.
Pete took her into the bathroom to rape her. Pat decided to join. So
Never a good call.
When Pat was in there
Terrible
joining,
idea.
his wife Denise caught him having sex with the nearly unconscious Gwen. So Denise, obviously very disgusted by this. They,
like any good normal person would be.
right. Pete drags Gwen out into the middle of the like living room, like out in the big open area of this farmhouse. And Denise is like, "What the fuck?" You know, she's freaking out, I think. And finally Gwen's passed out on the floor. And she's like, "What are you guys doing? What's going to happen?" Like, and you would think that Pete's going to go off the handle here, but instead Pat comes over with an axe handle. So no head attached, just the big heavy fucking.
Oh no.
And just bashes her in the head several times. She's like convulsing, lying there. She's not dead. Pete comes over, puts 222 rounds into her head.
Like in the middle of this party.
No, it's not a party. The party was the night before. Sorry if I was unclear.
Okay.
They're here to pick up the car that got left from the night before.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, yes. Just the 4 of them, now 3 of them. Gwen is killed, 222 shots to the head. So Denise is beside herself, but they're like, "Well, you're in it now." And they took her, and let's see, let me make sure I got this right here. Sorry. Okay, so Denise ends up testifying against the brothers at some point, but it takes like 4 years for her to decide that she's ready to do it. But she says that she was terrified of them at this point and helped her husband and brother-in-law scrub blood from the farmhouse floors and walls. The brothers took Gwen's body to the edge of Elk River, where they placed it in a 55-gallon drum and burned it until only bits of bone and ash remained. Then they threw Gwen's remains in the river. So the big mistake that ends up getting them convicted is that Gwen used to wear a baby diaper safety pin in her laces for like her son. He wasn't. I think it was just like I don't think he died. It was just like, "I love my son. I keep this with me to remind me of him always," and that didn't burn.
Huh.
So they found that safety pin, and it's like how they tied it all back to them based on that.
That's
and then I'm sure
good work.
Yeah, that's how it started. That's not like what they convicted them with, but they go to the farmhouse and they see.
That was enough to get him a warrant.
Yes, exactly. So I think as well as burning her body, they burned like the mattress and a lot of other items in the house. Eventually buried in a pile of burned debris, forensic investigators would find the diaper pin Gwen kept in the lace of her tennis shoe. So the family of Gwen Duggar put flyers up looking for her, but her dad said that like almost immediately that they knew something was wrong because she would never leave her son. She was like a dedicated mother. Her son loved her. I mean, I think he was 1 or 2 at the time. And so it was 1990. So it was 4 years later when Denise Bondurant decided to tell her story. Let's see. She gets granted immunity for testifying against them. The brothers were indicted in 1990, sent to trial in 91, and were convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years each in prison. The absence of a body led to the lesser charge of second-degree rather than first-degree murder. So they did a good enough job disposing of the body that they could never prove it.
Damn.
Yep. Judge Jim Hamilton said that
That's crazy. No body, no crime.
Yeah, Judge Jim Hamilton said the diaper pin was the most chilling piece of evidence he'd ever seen presented in court. In a video recording of the sentencing aired on the TV show Evil Twins, he said in his 25-year career on the bench, quote, "I've never had a murder as brutal and as merciless as the facts of this case show."
Jesus.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was pointless. They had raped her and for no reason just decided to bash her head in afterwards with his wife standing there.
Yeah, that's... I don't know. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a certain... It takes a certain kind of person to do that kind of shit anyway.
Right. And then
to use it as an intimidation tactic against somebody that you allegedly love.
We're not even done. Pat would later be convicted of a first-degree murder that happened prior to that. It was the death of a man named Ronnie Gaines, who was a coworker of his, and Pete was convicted for helping dispose of the body. Pete would also be later convicted for the murder of Terry Lynn Clark, a case that was not covered on the television show. So both of them had separate murders besides the first 2 Pete did, besides the Gwen Duggar murders.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, Killer Twins, Evil Twins, the Big Boy Killers, whatever you want to call them. Pete and Pat,
assholes,
Bondurant. Yeah, fuck faces indeed. So that's that. I mean, that's pretty much it for them. They're terrible. They're terrible. Yeah. Thank you, Randall, for the suggestion. It was very, very good reading. That was a good little episode of Evil Twins. And yeah, man. Damn.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking brutal.
Right.
Even by our standards.
Right. And I don't get to tell non-serial killer stories that often, so it's nice to get that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you wanna tell me what you got, man?
I do.
Tell me about it. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Let me hear that story, dude.
All right, so this is Issei Sagawa, also known as Pang, also known as the Japanese cannibal or the Paris cannibal. Bet you don't know what happens in this story. On June 11th, 1981, he shot and killed, began dismembering and eating Renee Hartevelt. She was a Dutch student studying in France, and he was a Japanese student studying in France, and they were studying together. I think they were in the same class or were taking the same course or something, and so they were studying together. They were actually in his apartment there, and they were reading poetry. More specifically, he was reading poetry to her.
Sexy.
Yeah, it was. And then while that was happening, he said, "I got the idea to eat her."
Just rando? Like, what poem do you think he was reading just then?
Ode to a Steak. I really don't know, but he said, "My passion is so great. I want to eat her. If I do, she'll be mine forever. There's no escape from this desire." And that's a direct quote from the man himself.
Yeah, there are a lot of interviews with him.
Yeah, he was. I mean, that was something that he really like. He was in it. He was in it to win it.
Yeah. Hate him.
Somehow he procured a hunting rifle. I mean, I don't know how easy that was to get in 1981 France. Um, but he got a hunting rifle. He shot and he killed her. And then he proceeded to just cut off various parts of her body and like cook them up different ways and taste them and see what he liked the best. Um, he cut off one of her breasts and like roasted it in the oven. But he said it was too greasy, so he didn't eat it.
Huh.
But
Gross.
he cut off part of her hip and cooked that up. And I mean, so he went through and he tasted like different parts of the body to see which tasted the best, and then saved what he wanted. And then the rest he just kind of and then they also said he performed necrophilic acts with what was left intact.
So he had multiple MOs on this. It wasn't just about eating her to be part of him forever. He's like, well, I mean,
yeah. See, and that
Well,
was
we're
something
here.
else because we were talking about that earlier with Arwen.
Mywis
Yeah, the German guy that
did something very similar.
yeah did something very similar. They both said the same thing that they'll be with them forever, and that's just that really struck me as weird that they both said that same thing, you know.
Yeah.
And like you said, where are they getting their information?
Yeah, like what church are they a part of? What
Yeah.
what cult are they paying
Exactly.
homage
Well,
to?
and for both of them, it was a sexual thing. For Armin, it was a sexual fetish. For this guy, it seemed to be more just like an uncontrollable lust. Like all of a sudden, the idea was in his head, and he was like, "This is the most I can be with somebody." Like, and again, this is just from what the limited research that I did, but it seemed like that he wanted so badly to be one with her, and like that was the most he could possibly be one with her, so he killed Nader. Which doesn't quite make sense in my book. Maybe have a little less now but have it for a longer time is instead of just going for it all right up front.
Yeah,
Um
it's not a good decision.
yeah, so he dismembered the remains, stuffed them into into 2 suitcases, and then went and deposited them at a park in France, in Paris. And somebody thought it was suspicious seeing an Asian man walking through the park in Paris carrying a couple of suitcases and then all of a sudden not carrying them anymore. So they called the police. The police came out, checked it out, found the remains, traced it back to Issei, and basically went to his apartment. And when they got to his apartment, they said it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
They said they opened up the fridge and they found like body parts, her lips, her left breast was in the fridge. Because he kept the stuff that was delicious,
Right.
or according to him, it was delicious.
Right.
He kept the stuff that was good to eat. So when he cut her up, like, I mean, he like straight up, like he cut a little bit off here and he would taste it. And if it was good, he'd cut the rest of it off and then like wrap it up and stick it in the fridge. At one point, he used her underwear as a napkin.
I hate him so much.
Yeah. So if that really irritates you, then try this on for size. He was arrested, and 3 I don't know, I don't even know what the technical doctor is, like psychologist, psychotherapist, I don't fucking know. 3 doctors appointed by the court all said that this dude was insane. They were like,
I tend to agree.
Yeah, he's insane. And so they socked him away, and then they eventually deported him back to Japan. When he got to Japan, like he had kind of like I don't want to say a cult following, but people were like, he was a bit of a rock star, sort of like how we talk about serial killers.
He had a cult following.
Yeah, he totally had a cult following, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, like the same way we talk about serial killers that are still alive.
Yeah,
that's how they were talking about him in Japan, except they were like stoked for him. They were like, hey, dude, this guy murdered somebody and ate him and got away with it. Like, imagine if Dahmer had gotten away with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's I don't want to say it's the same, but it's on par with what this cat did.
Yeah, and it was because they transferred him, and then the new doctor said he was sane, right?
Well, what happened was they deported him to Japan, and he had like a big following, and people were like showing up at the hospital and like disrupting stuff. And so they transferred him, and when they transferred him, the new doctor was like, "Oh, he's sane." And because he was sane, they couldn't hold him anymore. So they turned him out, and now he's like a famous person now in Japan.
Like he like did the interview circuit.
Yeah, he like talk shows, books, and now he's like, "Oh, it's such a punishment having to live as a killer and a criminal in the public eye when all I want to do is live my life." Well, bitch, she wanted to live her life, and you fucking killed her and ate her. So you got off way better than she did.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Almost a little different with Armin because that guy agreed to it and chose to be there.
Totally. That
still not okay, but
if the guy agreed to it, two consenting adults, man.
Yeah, it's still murder.
Is it if the person asked for it though? Like
Yeah,
if somebody's super sick.
I think it depends on what state you're in. They can take their own life. You cannot take their life. It's a mercy killing. Look up Dr. Jack Kevorkian.
I know who he is.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we're talking about.
Maybe this guy wanted to die, and he was just like, "Hey, can a brother help a brother out?" And he was like,
He probably may have been right on there, or like if I wanted to kill myself, and I know I can't do it, so I'll just let this weird fuck do it for me. Like, yeah, for sure, but it's still murder.
Yeah, I guess whatever. I mean, I'm not a German. I'm not a German judge.
Yeah, I'm not either, and I don't dare say there's nowhere where it is not murder, because who the hell knows?
Yeah,
but I know for the most part that'd be Moida. So,
but yeah, that's pretty much the story of Issei Sagawa, aka Pang, aka the Japanese cannibal.
Yeah, man, that story.
Dude, the craziest thing is that he's just out right now. Like when I was watching a documentary,
you could just be in Japan and like bump into Pang.
Mm-hmm. They totally showed a picture of him. Like he had like a bowl of meat in front of him and chopsticks.
Oh my
and he was like,
God. Why would they fucking make that the photo?
Dude, it was like a fisheye lens. Like it looked like the cover of a ska band album. And he's just got like meat and chopsticks and he's like leaning up into the camera and like, I'm going to find it. I'm going to send it to you right now just so you can see that like this is the level of fuckery that they're putting up with.
We're going to post this on the Insta at some point. I guess Greg's going to send it to me, but while Greg sends that to me, I'll go ahead and finish it up with I found a missing persons here. It's nothing major. There's no huge story behind it. It's not it's a cold case, and that's what the charlieproject.org. Every now and again I will see some of the victims that are part of the serial killings possibility lists land on this website because it's essentially a landing spot for all of the cold case files. I think there are over 11,000 cold case missing persons on here. So I kind of just did a shuffle here and found one. Did you send it? Is that what's going on here?
No, I'm looking right now.
Okay. So this is the missing persons. Again, that's charlieproject.org. Charlie is Charley. She's actually been missing since 1995 from Hallock, Minnesota. She was 41 years old at the time she went missing. She's 5'6", 150, Caucasian female, sandy brown hair, brown eyes. She may go by the last name Smith or Udi. She has light scarring on her face and a smallpox vaccination scar on her arm. Her right front tooth is discolored and her right eye droops and is permanently dilated. She has a gap in her front teeth as well. Let's see. She was last seen in Hallock, Minnesota on October 1st, 1995. She spoke to her daughter on the phone that day. Around the same time, she cashed a check and she had never contacted her family again. I think to me, and a lot of times the police case will be on here, and you can look through some of it, and that wasn't unfortunately part of this one. But it seems to me like the boyfriend is probably the prime suspect in the disappearance. But she had moved to Minnesota from New Mexico with her boyfriend earlier in 1995. She and her boyfriend had a history of partying and drinking alcohol to excess, and there have been many domestic violence disputes in the relationship. She did, however, stay in contact with her mother and 3 daughters very closely, and she said that she was thinking about moving back to New Mexico at the time of her disappearance. So it seems to line up quite well, not to make too many inferences, but for the boyfriend. It wasn't until February that she actually was reported missing, even though she went missing in possibly October, as far as they went back. But she is, it's a case that remains unsolved. She has lost touch with family at this point. It is 1995, and people can just go away and disappear. It's not something that's implausible or impossible. They have lost touch with that boyfriend who isn't, they had nothing to hold him on. So they believe he currently resides in Florida. To
me is that, like, in the last story you read, they were able to piece it together based off of a diaper pin and a shoelace.
Yeah.
And ashes of a body.
Right.
But this guy, they're like, well, we got all this stuff that kind of points to him, but we got nothing to hold him on. So, see you, dude.
Yeah. It's wild sometimes when it's like an almost an absolute positivity that's what happened, but there's just no way. So it's not a closed case. I understand that reading these is a long shot. I don't do them as filler. It's to me, it's an important thing. Like, if these are still open cases, there are people that need closure, and 1995 isn't 1965. So, I think whether that means finding remains or finding Becky Jo alive, either way, if the investigating agency is the Kitson County Sheriff's Office, if for any reason anybody listening to this show has information on Becky Jo Look, you can reach that investigating agency at 218-843-3535. Yeah, man, that's kind of all we got here. It's been a wild ride. We're recording this after we recorded episode 60, just so it doesn't seem too confusing. This is episode 59, but it's gonna come out. Yeah. Okay. So
it'll be on a couple days.
Yeah. So the season is over for us. The season is over for us when we hit stop on this recording tonight, Greg. We're going to take a little break.
It's not. It'll be over when we hit post on 60.
Yeah, that's true. It's pretty much over. We don't have to do much until then. So we appreciate you guys understanding that a season break is necessary, not only for us to just kind of take a week or two off, but to be able to really step back and reassess everything and see where we can put our time and make things better and more efficient and awesome for you. Greg, I can see you want to add something to this.
We got a lot of big things, a lot of things in the pipeline, a lot of stuff where we're putting our eggs in everybody else's basket for a change.
Really big shoe.
Really big. No, we want to do some stuff to make it better for the listener, for the person out there who consumes podcasts.
Thank you for your consumption.
But also, do something for us. Tell everybody about it.
Yeah.
Be fucking weird about it, too. Be like, yo, you want to fucking play a true crime game show with me? And when they're like, what? Be like, just listen and play along.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Like, tell people about it. Because, I mean, they're terrible fucking shitty people. And so are we, but that's all right.
Yeah, get ready on the pause button, because we usually cut out most of the lingering pauses. So be ready for that. But I mean, I guess we've never really talked about it, but it is you could play it at home, and as long as you got that pause button ready, or on some of the earlier episodes we weren't very good at editing, just chill.
Yeah, wait.
So that's the idea for Greg and I. We're gonna figure out some better ways to use the equipment we have. We're gonna
Listen, if this thing takes off, you can get a take. I will personally make sure that there's like a play at home version of the Serial Chillers podcast.
make like an app or something.
If this thing if it takes off, then I will make sure that something like that happens.
So from co-host / Hella Greg, you guys have been promised, if you help the show take off, he's going to make you a play along app or hire somebody to make that for him.
That's more like it.
Yeah. Either way. Well, I mean, it's been great. And some things are happening. I mean, there's a little bit of movement on Spotify. We're kind of miffed with, but we don't dislike it. So whatever's happening, if anybody, let me just throw this out here for you guys. If anybody ever sees us somewhere and it says trending or, suggested, let us know. We don't really get the updates on things like that. Spotify doesn't tell us when that happens. So, unless we stumble upon it ourselves or, the one or two times that someone has sent us a screenshot of it, we don't know.
If you hear about us somewhere or see a sticker or a fellow chiller,
yeah,
like take pictures. I want to see that shit.
Yeah, the subject matter may be dark, but like we were saying at the top, you guys are some of the greatest, most fun-loving fans, and it's been a blast interacting with all of you guys. If you want to continue to interact with us, you can do it in a ton of ways. Tell them, Greg.
You can go to Instagram at Serial Chillers Podcast. You can go to Instagram at Serial Chillers Podcast. You can go to Facebook at Serial Chillers Podcast. There's also like a group page that you got to wait for acceptance, but it's like somebody requested earlier and I was on that shit in like 12 seconds. Seconds. You can find us on Twitter at Chillers Podcast. You can email us or Gmail us, as it were, at serialchillerspodcast@gmail.com. And then there's a phone number. It's 805-666-2513. Call it, text it. We're there.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And we get texts. I got a text during the show. So Jaime or Jamie, there's an I before the M. So I always got to make sure to throw out the Jaime if I don't want to fuck up somebody's name. So either Jamie or Jaime, I'm going to read this right when I get done. But the question at the end also, who exactly are your bad friends? Let's see. Bad friends. Greg, Dustin, Bigfoot, Alex, Joseph. No, I'm just kidding.
All of them?
Yeah, they're all bad friends. We're all here on a serial killer podcast together. So, no, text the line, guys. Thank you, Jamie or Jaime. It's cool to interact with you guys. It's been a blast. We're going to take a break after next week's episode. We'll be back. Let's look at the calendar here, Greg.
Looking at the calendar, Greg.
October 5th. Episode 61. We'll be back for the season premiere. We'll have Joseph and Alex on for that. Can't wait to bring it back for you guys. I'm really excited for next season. I think there's just going to be, we're not changing a ton of things, but I think we're adding a couple really crucial things. So I'm excited for it, man.
I'm excited too. If there's something that you want to see or want to hear or whatever, let us know. We're open to ideas. We may not do it, or we may do it and take full credit for it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But really, if there's something that you want to see or hear, let us know, because we are open to ideas. And also, if you just want to talk to us, you know how to get a hold of us.
Just do it in all the ways. Do it in all the ways. Yeah.
And
yeah, man. Thank you guys for listening to episode 59. Enjoy episode 60 that we recorded last week, next week. And thanks for letting us take a break and being cool about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you guys. Hey, remember, don't talk to strangers.
Or fucking do. We're not your bosses.
Either way.
Either way is fine.
Hey guys, we've had a couple requests to hear the pop punk band that Greg and I refer to being in. Now, the thing about this pop punk band is that it existed prior to a time where all music made it onto the internet. So, we were able to track down 2 tracks that we recorded. I think we may have had 4 or 6 originally. So, we're going to play you one here today. Hope you guys enjoy it. This is Hella Greg and myself at 15 and 16 years old in our pop punk band called Sight Unseen. Got Greg on the drums, and I'm lead singing. So, I don't know. I guess enjoy. Thank you, guys.
And now your feature presentation.
You act like you know Mrs. Wonderland.